Hi, and welcome back to Three Skulls Tavern. I'm going to be doing the last of my Q&A catch-up videos for the backlog of Q&A questions I've had on my Discord channel for the past year and a bit. Because I'm going to be restarting my Patreon, and I'm going to be doing monthly Q&As, and so I want to cover the backlog before I start doing those. So, let's open up Discord and look at the last question. This question is from Eric Blightbane. And his question is this. This is from over a year ago, so it might no longer be applicable for Eric, but the question he's asking is a good one for people new to solo role-playing. So Eric asks, I'm new to solo RPGs, and I'm starting off with Forbidden Lands with the official solo rules. I'm just wondering if you have any tips for a beginner for handling all the information I have to absorb. As I have a demanding day job, I'm finding myself reading the player's handbook in parts whenever I have some time, and just worried that I'm forgetting stuff that I already read. Then I'm moving on to the Game Master's handbook, and then the solo section. It seems such a daunting task to try to remember everything I'm reading. So afraid I'll start forgetting stuff, be perpetually rereading, and don't know when I'll actually get around to playing. Any advice would be appreciated. Now, this is a really, really great question, and my blunt answer is that for you, Eric, Forbidden Lands is probably not the right starting entry point for solo role-playing. If you are in a similar boat and you think that you want to try solo role-playing, but you're picking up a game that you have never run before, played before, like Forbidden Lands, you're going to have an uphill task trying to get started. And the reason why is that, exactly like he's saying, not only do you have to familiarize yourself with a new set of rules for a game you've never played, you also then have to familiarize yourself with the solo role-playing elements of it and how they've been implemented. That isn't necessarily always a problem, but for games like Forbidden Lands, where the solo role-playing rules were created as an expansion to the core role-playing experience, which is not a solo experience, unless you have time on your hands or you're kind of happy to read through all that stuff and you really want to play the game, you're going to probably have a similar issue to Eric, where it's going to feel like an uphill battle trying to figure out how to get started. I did try and approach this in the solo section for this, where I talked about like how to get started with the solo game, but you still need to be familiar with the core mechanics and, to an extent, quite a few sections from the Game Master's Guide. You could probably skip a lot of the history sections. You could probably skim over a lot of the section about the different kin. As well, and the gods. You could skim over a lot of that fluff type of stuff and just focus on things like the random encounters, how they work without reading the random encounters themselves, of course, but then also looking at how the adventure sites work, and skimming over the bestiary, specifically looking at how the bestiary works. So take one of the monsters in the bestiary, look at how they're statted up, read the section at the beginning of the bestiary to see how you kind of handle them, and then you've got an idea for how they work in a combat. Then probably go back to the player's handbook and relook at how the combat rules work, specifically around monsters, because they're kind of get handled a little bit differently. Multiple initiative cards, how their attacks work, stuff like that. But my advice to people who are new to solo role playing would either be find a solo set of rules for a game you're already familiar with, a game that you have played many times before, you know the mechanics already, because it's going to be a lot easier for you to figure out how to do the solo role-playing stuff for a game you've already played. Or find a game written for solo and run that instead as one of your first ones. You don't have to do a long campaign of it, but there's a lot of options out there. And I'm going to show you some examples from my shelf for ones that I have tons of solo games. These are just ones specifically I think are really nice. I tried to look for just fantasy ones, but there are some sci-fi ones in here as well. So if we start with, I'll keep them grouped together because I have basically three groups of books, or three different publishers or authors. The first one is the one that got me started in solo, and that's Ironsworn by Sean Tomkin. It is a little bit crunchy, but the game is designed around solo roleplay, and a lot of the game, to be fair, is tables and moves, and there are like reference documents to make it easier to look them up. But reading through this can maybe be a little bit daunting at first if you've never come across it, because there's a lot of text in there. But the text is really good at explaining you know why those rules are there, how to implement them, and if you really read through just this one book, you'll be set for when you want to start playing. There's procedures for how to start playing the game. You'll get up and running in no time, and it's a really good system. Fantasy as well. Highly recommended. He also did a sci-fi spin-off called Starforged, Ironsworn Starforged. It's even meatier, but it also has a lot more tables in it around like planet generation and stuff like that. It's slightly more streamlined in term. Well, maybe not streamlined is not the right word, but it's a newer edition of the similar core rule set, so it's a little bit more ironed out some of the little kinks maybe in Ironsworn. I really, really like this. I've run a game of this, a co-op game of this with Sophia on my channel, my YouTube channel, which you can check out if you look for we ran it in the Star Wars universe, so look for just do a search on my YouTube channel for Starforged and you'll find it. So those would be my first recommendations, because I mean I've played both of them. I really like them, and that's how I started with solo as well. Another option would be there's a guy called Alex, oh man, what's his surname? I need to just quickly check. Alex T. Alex T from Black Oath Entertainment, and he's created a bunch of solo games, two of which are Karanethalas, which is a sort of dark fantasy survival, more like a dungeon crawler. It's like dungeon based, but still like this is one book, self-contained, lots of tables for running a solo dungeon crawling experience. There's a bunch of expansions for that as well. And his sci-fi one, which is my favorite here, which I've actually only just dipped my toes into. I actually am saving this one to review on my channel, or to preview, I should say, with my new Patreon coming up. And that's Across 1,000 Dead Worlds, which is sci-fi based. Based around, I think it's a wormhole, wormholes that have been found that kind of, I'll talk about it a bit more, but basically you go through these wormholes and you don't know where you're going to be taken, and you're basically trying to explore and to find valuable artifacts and bring them back alive. And if you can do that, you're going to get rich or die trying, right? And it's got really nice layout inside. It's got like these little maps and stuff that you can run. I've got a physical copy of it, but it comes with, if you get a physical version, you get these like cool maps that you can use. The PDF, I believe, has all these as well, so it kind of has like a mapping element to it. It's a full-blown game, and I really, really dipped my toes into it. Really excited to play that one, but I haven't played it personally because I've been waiting to do it on a stream, because I really want to do it where I have my first proper reaction to it on a stream. And then my final one is a game called Notorious. There's a sequel called, I believe, Outsiders, which I also have, and I think there's another expansion coming up soon on Kickstarter, where I believe you can probably buy a reprint of this as well if you want a physical copy. This is a really fun game. It's very quick to run. It's very easy to run, but it's basically like Mandalorian-esque, the TV show. So you play a sci-fi bounty hunter, and you go on bounty hunting missions. And it's very reminiscent of the Star Wars universe without being from the Star Wars universe. Average playtime 1 to 2 hours. It's very, very easy to pick up and run. But again, it is sci-fi rather than fantasy. So just for learning how to do solo role-playing, I think it really helps tackling something that maybe is not learning everything at once, especially learning a game that wasn't designed for solo role-play, and then reading how the solo role-play adapts it before you're even starting to touch the game. It's just an uphill battle. So those are my two recommendations: are either run a game that you're already run a game solo that you've already played or you already have experience with, or run a game that's been designed from the ground up to be solo, to be a solo game. Alternatively, this is the bonus one, is to run something like Tricube Tales. Tricube Tales is also a very lightweight system, and it's a generic system that can run anything. there are a bunch of one sheet, which are kind of like two-sided, so two-page settings and adventures built into one with a bunch of adventure hooks and stuff. And there's a solo expansion for it. And that's another thing you can run because it's a very quick read to grok the way the system works. It's a very lightweight system. It's player facing. The solo rules are very good as well. And there's these very short, like setting pitches, like little mini, if you want, like campaign frameworks that you can kind of, they're very, very cheap. They're like often $1 or less. And you can just, he's got like, I think, probably close to 100 of them now. There's just a ton of them. And he's releasing, I think, like one a month for a long time as well. So there's a ton of them available. And they touch on all sorts of popular IPs. Like, you know, there's like Star Wars based ones and different ones for like, there's one for bounty hunters. There's one for Jedi. There's one for something else. I think there's 3 of them in total for Star Wars. Rebels, maybe. So you can, and there's each separate. So it's kind of like, okay, I don't want to just run Star Wars. He's like, well, if you want to run Star Wars, I'm going to be specific about offering a flavor of Star Wars so I can actually fit something that works on 2 sheets of paper. Because if you're trying to just encompass an entire big setting like that, you're going to fail. You got to kind of hone in on exactly the experience you want to focus in on. He's also the guy who's written it, Richard, is also an Emmy Award winner for a different game he ran called Saga of the Goblin Horde, I believe, which is like a setting for you're playing goblins in using Savage Worlds, which he won an Emmy for back in the day. But yeah, highly recommend TriCube Tales as well, just because it's easy to kind of get into and you can find something fun to play very quickly. And you know, getting familiar with the world is going to be super quick because it's only 2 pieces of paper, and it's touching on tropes that you're already going to be familiar with. That's a big part of it. So those are the 3 options. Something you're already familiar with, and then you just have to learn the solo rules. A game designed for solo play, or something like TriCube Tales, which is lightweight, has solo stuff built into it, and has a bunch of pre-made templates for adventure sparks ready to play. So if any of those kind of sound good to you, let me know. I'd be curious, Eric, to know if, you know, it's been more than a year since you made that post, and I don't recognize your username if you're still on my channel, on my Discord channel, or server, I should say. I'll ping you when this video goes live because I'm curious to know if you've actually started Forbidden Lands since then. And if you did, what your experience was, or if you played something else to start off with, because I never answered this question in over a year. So apologies for that, but it is a very good question, and I hope that answers it for anyone else that's out there wondering about getting started with solo play. So that's it for me. This was the last. There is actually another Q&A question from Attila. He's asking about Outgunned. Can you talk about this? What was your role? Did you write the entire rules and mechanics for the game? I'm not going to tackle this because this is, again, like nearly a year old now. I wrote an expansion for the game Outgunned, it's called the Assistant Director booklet. I'm very proud of it. It has half of the book is, I guess I'm going to answer this question, Attila. I wasn't planning on it, but half of the book is a campaign framework really can be used for any game. It has no mechanics tied specifically to Outgunned. It's designed to tell cinematic campaigns. And when I use the term cinematic, I mean that literally. The game Outgunned is designed by 2 guys who have a background in cinema. And everything about their game, all the mechanics of the game have been designed, and even the terms have been worded so that it evokes cinema. And when I was creating the Assistant Director book for them, because they didn't really have much campaign advice in their core rulebook, I had a ton of feedback from them about how to change things to make it fit more with being cinematic. And I'm really proud of what we've done. It's a really nice way of creating a campaign. There's a bunch of worksheets that come with it. But you can create a campaign framework that won't take too long. It's usually going to be between, I would say, probably like, depending how quickly you want to run it, probably 4, like at the very minimum 4, more likely to be like a 12 session campaign, maybe even a little bit longer than that, depending on how much role play your players get into, and how yeah. There is advice in both the Outgunned core rulebook and in the campaign guide for keeping the pace moving as well. So it shouldn't, like, even for because it's meant to be like also actiony a bit as well, like cinematic action. It is meant to keep things moving fast paced. But I wrote that then basically, which is this campaign building workbook basically for Outgunned, but for any campaign that you want to run that's cinematic. And the second half of the book was solo rules for Outgunned, but also applying those frameworks to a cinematic to a solo game. So you could use those solo rules at the back half of the game. Ignore some of the there's a bit more where I'm showing how to tweak the mechanics of Outgunned for solo play, but I'm also talking about procedures for solo play to make the campaign framework work in solo, which would work for literally any system. So that's what I wrote for that game. It took me like a year to write that. I had a bunch of playtesters. They were all raving about it by the end. I'm really proud of that. I feel like nobody's talking about that expansion, which is a bit unfortunate. It feels like it's really flown under the radar. I don't feel like Two Little Mice themselves have really talked about it very much, which is unfortunate. Yeah, but I'm going to be at a big convention called Spiel Essen in like a week and a half, and I'll be working on the Free League booth. And Free League are now selling Outgunned. They're like a publishing partner or distribution partner with for Outgunned. So I'm going to be selling that game with my expansion there, and I'm going to be pushing that thing really hard to a lot of people. So I'm hoping we're going to sell out of the Assistant Director, mainly because I'm going to be hard selling it, and maybe that'll wake up Two Little Mice a little bit to how good this product is, because if I can't sing the praises of a product I've created, then I don't know who is going to do it. Nobody else will. Yeah, but that was what I did with Outgunned, and yeah, really proud of it. Anyway, that's it from me getting caught up with my my Q&A questions from Discord, the backlog. The new Q&A questions that are going to be coming up starting probably in a month or two when I restart my Patreon. The questions being asked are going to be patron specific. So if you want to ask me a question, you're going to have to join the Patreon to do that. Keep your eyes peeled. I'll put a link down in all these videos to the Patreon page. It hasn't officially gone live yet. You can join as a free member, which means you don't have to pay anything. And then I'll be making some free posts, just kind of highlighting the stuff I'm working on. Maybe there'll be some teasers to stuff, so that way you can decide if you follow me as a free member, then can decide maybe for this month there's something in the Q&A that really interests me, or I want to specifically ask a question. So I'll join the Patreon for a month, ask the question, and maybe cancel after the month's done. Or maybe you feel like it's good value for money and you want to stay longer, which would be great. Either way, that's coming up in a month or two as I'm kind of getting all my ducks in a row to get it started again. So anyway, thanks very much for staying and listening. If you have any comments, leave them in the comments below. And otherwise, I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers.